Am I streaming? Are we live? Did I lose you? Oh well. Well, we will pretend that that did not happen. I think somehow I just dumped my stream and just came back on. Yay OBS for reconnections. All right. Sort of have this little head shape going on here. Let's see where we can find, where we can kind of repeat it and carry that on. Let's see the rest of our piece again. Okay, so we're going to see that. I'll repeat that here. And we'll have that go with that. Once again, we'll pop this off. And just come in here and set this flow down again, right? And even here when I'm doing organic forms, I'm still thinking about, you know, once again, you don't see me. This is another thing that I kind of really want to push people towards when you are doing things for printing or modeling. If you, I see a lot of people who come in, let's say with the that's not standard brush. Let's go to standard brush. I don't even know where standard brush is. I don't use it. I know it's in here somewhere. Hold on. Standard. There it is. So a lot of modelers, they'll use the standard brush. They'll come in and they'll build and they'll take off and they'll build. But what this gets you in the habit of doing is what I call drawing on detail, right? Like you'll see people go, oh, I want a line here. And then, well, hey, wait a minute, I want a line here. Now I will get around to that. But if you'll notice how I build, okay. If you notice, like in here, right? I didn't say, oh, I want a line here and draw a line. I knock this surface back. And then I sculpt this one up. I bring this surface up. And I create my line. You'll see that I do almost all my preliminary work in clay tubes because clay tubes has sharp edges, right? And so as I'm coming in and I want to draw a line, that's how I'm drawing my lines. I'm going to build this up, right? And then I'm building that up. And that's how I start to conceive lines when I'm doing this, because when you are dealing with reflective surfaces, which jewelry and small object design is you're painting in light or you're sculpting in light. You know, this gives a very distinctive surface reflection. You can see these are no longer pointing in the same direction. This is light here. Oh, look, that's reflective there. Where if you just come in and you draw your line, even with that deep, look, they're still reflecting on the same plane. So that just reads as a straight plane. And a very overpowered slash. You know, that is not the same as this. So I know if you all listen to me, I repeat this over and over and over and over again. But I don't know. People don't seem to listen, so I'm gonna keep saying it. I'd be happy to make you a dog collar and print it out for you. Do you want a crab collar? But you can see how by me not drawing a line there, but me sculpting a line there, it allows me to play with planes and surfaces differently. You can start to think about your surfaces differently when you sculpt them. And so that is one of the things I harp on in my class, I harp on here, and everyone's like, oh, Tomas, you say it so much. And then I get models in for homework, and all of the detail has been done like this. And I'm like, so, yes, you will continually hear me harp on that. All right, so do we want to go watery organic or architectural organic? I'll give you a vote. I guess we could go weird, fleshy, bony organic too. That's not creepy. I just gave you 3 kinds of organic. You gotta pick one. So watery organic, architecturally organic, and I said I guess we could go bony, weird, fleshy organic. Oh, of course. Then, if we're going fleshy organic, you need points to stretch to and from. Because fleshy organic's about a sub-bone structure. And so now we, oh, that's masked off, that's right. And we will, a little bit more juice there. You're lucky, I might even be able to go all the way to slobber for you. So if I'm doing something which I would consider fleshy organic, which means tendons, muscle fiber, and the such, we do have to do what character modelers do, and that is you have to find your bone structure. What is going on underneath the bad boy that we're going to stretch to and from? And it doesn't have to be literal bones, but our brains know bones, and so just kind of give it things, right? We'll give it a little knob here, and we'll knock this back. And the other thing about fleshy things is you have to remember that, you know, what do you have in bodies? You have bones, and then you have all these stretching structures, and then you have big empty spaces. It's like, you know, in between the hip bone and the front of the groin, there's a big cavity there. And everyone, you know, it's like if this is your hip bone, you know, this is the crotch, this area right in here, people keep trying to put stuff in there, and there's not. There's tendons coming out here. There's like a tendon set here, and then everything else is stretching off that bone. And so finding points which are anchors and things that your tendony stuff can stretch from is what's going to give you sort of a biological organic, right, as opposed to water. And so I'm just coming in, and we have these high points, so I'm going to decide what's at those high points. So once again, when you have big direction changes, they're either through tension or pivoting off bone, right? So you have to view it like rubber bands. You know, you can't get a rubber band to go S-shaped under tension, but you can put one here, and pull and twist, and you can get some interesting forms. And that's how tendons and muscles work. So, you know, everything needs to be, you know, under tension. So if this is going out and around and cutting over that, that's how it can get a wide bend or a wide curve as opposed to it just being soft. So you just have to think of tensions, right? So that's getting its tension by going over this surface, and this one's pretty straight, right? And so you just try to conceive them like what's happening. Why would it make sense to do that? Because, you know, this is not a body, this is not real anatomy, but if we're trying to sell fleshy, tendony sort of things, you know, it needs to use that vocabulary. And so that's what we'll try to do. And I'll take that imaginary curve, I'll deal with it. Because we're implying tension here, so that'll do. And then here, let's bring that down. Fill that in a little. And we'll sort that over and under in a minute. Alright, let's do on that one here. Make that sort of knuckly, which means these are tendony. Cut up and under. Because the nice, elegant curves, you can see how if I'm taking this, I'm now turning these into sort of compounds, right? Because if you think about the really nice, beautiful curves on the body, right? Knee and that thigh, hip. You know, these lumps, these curves, it's not one muscle that's shaped like that. It's these, you know, this is coming in like this. This has this going up like this. Tickle. And then this comes up and dives up under there. So once again, we're trying to sell that fleshiness as opposed to architectural, which if it were architectural, we could easily just make that curve because it is a geometrical curve. But if we're trying for that fleshy, anatomical feeling, you know, this curve isn't made up of that curve. It's made up of three things diving up under one another and rolling over each other. No, I'll definitely have to look it up. That sounds absolutely interesting. Silver light and shape. No, I've not seen that. Is it a new book? You can see I'm not respecting this curve much, especially down here. It's not going to matter too much. Oh. It's still currently available. So you can see how we took that architectural shape and then pretty quickly turned it into something that was pretty flashy. And it's just whatever the vocabulary of that curve set is, you know. And let's put that a little. You don't want something that you're going to rub your finger on a lot. It'll become annoying, and well, then you won't wear the ring. And if you don't wear the ring, you're not going to buy another one from me if the one you buy sucks. So, you always have to worry about comfort. What's the best way to learn in a couple weeks? Well, you mean how to get started? Well, I think that there are a handful of things you need to do. I mean, I know this, I don't mean this to sound negative or contrite or anything like that. Can you navigate comfortably? Like, I mean, can you like do this and, you know, turn without doing this every time you do it? And you're like, why is that happening? And things like, I mean, if you can navigate, then go to I don't know why I don't just have this loaded beforehand. If you go to pixelogic.com and you go to Learning Center, and then there's the classroom, it has it blocked out as beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And to be deadly honest, I would skip those two to begin with. I mean, these are good, but I don't think they. I think these should be sort of at the bottom, I guess, because these take you right through polymesh, how to work a ZBrush, sort of how array functions. But you can come in and like Z-spheres, the interface, and this will give you an idea of the basic tool sets. And just work your way through Z Classroom. They're all really short. You know, these aren't half-hour, 45-minute videos. These are all like anywhere between 3 and 4-minute videos. And just keep working on them until they work. Hey, how's it going? Now, yeah, being able to get used to it and use it in a couple weeks, yeah, good luck. I mean, it's a slightly different interface than what most modeling programs are used to. And I think that it just takes a little time to get comfortable with the program. And then it comes down to, what do you want to do? I mean, are you trying to... Yeah, no. And unfortunately, I mean, how basic are you? I mean, how much do you know about... I mean, can you navigate? Can you... do you understand Dynamesh? Do you Does that make sense, what I'm asking? Because that's really going to determine. And once again, what are you going to use the end result for? Are you trying to use the end result for printing? You're trying to do animation? That. Hey, hi guys. You know, that's because right now is when you want to start developing the habits you're going to use while you're working, and what you're trying to accomplish is going to determine what that workflow is. But like I said, if you don't even know how to navigate comfortably, and I don't mean that oddly, a lot of people have problems with navigation actually. Until you're used to it, it can seem pretty tricky. So that's why I keep going back to that in general. I'm not... So, yeah, I think that usage is going to make big determinations on what you should then look at if you're trying to learn. Because you really do have to understand different things if you're trying to produce models compared to if you're trying to do animation, and if you're trying to build... I mean, like, no model I've ever built is even close to becoming easily riggable. You know, I don't pay any attention to where my geometry is for things like that. The changing shapes. Well, so I may not be the best person in the world to do this, because I'm a weird traditionalist in some ways, in the sense that I almost never... When you talk about textures, I assume you mean like this stuff here. I will sculpt everything. So I very rarely apply texture. I mean, if there's someone who has a specific texture and using alphas and stuff, I mean, I can, and there are times when it is much easier to use an alpha. But like on my snakes and stuff, I literally sit there and sculpt scales. Like, sometimes I'll use an alpha, like, to lay on the base. And with Noisemaker, if you know something about UVs, you can get in that. I can never get it to work. Where I know snake scales are long diamonds, right? There you go. There's my block up for snake scales, right? They travel in like little V's, right? Oh, sorry. And now you punch. But now with the vector displacement meshes, this becomes much easier because you lay that out. And when I say lay out, I mean I literally lay it out like that. I mean, I just need to know where my base sharps are. I find out where my thing is, I pull it, and I know my scale will wind up like that, you know? Yes, and you must start making sound effects, because if you don't, you're not using ZBrush. ZBrush self-promoting sound effects is very important. But changing shapes, once again, you know, I think that those videos in that Z Classroom are going to help you get to any of that stuff, because really, here, duplicate. I don't know if you use the gizmo yet, but if you get into your gizmo, right, now this provides this whole set of base shapes that you can control your geometry in and where they go. So this is really where I would try to generate shapes. I'm still a creature of habit, so sometimes I don't remember that I should start there. But that's the most resolute place to be able to come up. Oh, Paul. But you can take any object from here, go in here, say I want a cylinder. Yeah, delete lower. Doesn't matter. Cylinder. Okay, delete higher too. Jesus. Come in, make a cylinder. Oh my god, really? Are we cylinder unmust part? Oh. You can't have symmetry on. For God's sake. Boom. And so there's your base geometry. From here you can control it gives you numbers down here, right? So you know how many facets there are. Here you know how many divisions there are. You come here and you can jam a hole in it. And so this is the easiest, fastest way to make clean mesh base primitives, I think. But yeah, I think that you're probably going to be best off going to the classroom and just going through some of those and pick, you know, be smart about the ones you pick. You don't need, you know, building buildings for art direction or anything. You know, look at Z-spheres, look at Dynamesh, look at Z-remesh, and look at Z-modeler. And that's really, I mean, once you have that stuff in your pocket, you can generate any of the shapes you need, base shapes. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but this started out as a Z-modeler model. And then I just twisted and torqued it a little. And you can see how I put that little hitch in there earlier when we were thinking, when I was thinking architectural, until Ashley said, make it anatomical. But you can see how we're filling the same place and just changing the vocabulary. We're changing the story of the part by texture and format. Yeah. Thanks. And once again, so if you look, so my Twitch page, I don't know where, I don't have a link to it up there. But if you go to my Twitch page on Saturdays, I will often run critiques. And if you bring, and don't hesitate, don't go, oh, well, mine sucks. If you come, we can help you solve immediate problems quickly, and we can get you up and running too. But the critiques are fun because you upload your model and we discuss it. And from very beginning to very advanced users, I mean, people bring their models in and we upload them and talk about them. So feel free to oh yeah, it's right here. I have it pointing in this. I can tilt it up some. Hold on. That might help. Does that help some? Yeah, it's real sensitive. No, anything. You bring it, we'll talk about it. We were talking about drawings the other day. I mean, we'll talk art. Will someone do me a favor and put my link, my Twitch link up there? And Jaron, please join us. Because, I don't know, I think that it's just good to talk about models and what we're doing, and art in general. I mean, I think it's important. I've been doing this for a little while, so I might have something to say. It's always good to have someone else look at something for you. I have people look at my models all the time. I'm like, what'd I do wrong? Why is this driving me nuts? Thanks, guys. I'm slamming around a little today, too. Trying to just move some material, so. All right. I'm gonna turn these into slobber for ash. They'll never cast, but that's not true if I make them thick enough. You can see how you can do the understructure, right, and get these very separated out and thin, and then come back over and lay, you know, your meat over it, and it gives that implication of layers. But right now we're not worried about that. We're just trying to get this into something that Ash would be happy with. Also, normally I have music playing, so it's not quite so quiet. I think that covers my my brush strokes often. But no music, it's quiet. So you can hear me moving around. Alright, that's pretty close. That's not, this is weird, that's not going anywhere. And I'm kind of a stickler for it in the sense of, like I just said, this right here isn't going anywhere. So like from here, this might, you know, I was laying this out like this, right? And so that makes sense. But where does it go? There's nothing tying to it, right? See, this is coming this way, and that's going to come up under here and do this. This is coming over like this. So what is that? Well, that now sort of looks like the bony protuberance that these two things are floating over. So we'll make it its own thing right here. Have it come out right here. You know, I want to see reasons for things. Because when you have like these gaps or things that don't do anything, trust me, people's brains notice it, even if they can't identify it. Someone notices it. There's no getting away from that crap. So don't be lazy. Think about what you're doing. Have a reason for it. Intentionality is a big damn deal. So I have it at, the big thing is lazy step at 0.003, and it could be 0.008 or whatever. I don't really remember. I think it was 0.03 at one point, and I was trying to go between 0.04 and I'm like, just jam it. So it dumped all the way back into 003, and then I have my roll step or my roll distance at 10, and it really allows for a nice clean line. The other thing is I'm sculpting at 5.5 million polys, so a lot of times, and I'll turn lazy mouse off so I don't get that. I use lazy Nezumi for my lazy curve, unless I'm trying to connect it. So a lot of my smoothness is that I'm working at, so here, let's go down to what a lot of people work at. You know, they'll work in that 350,000 range, and you're like, oh, well, my brushes aren't smooth. Well, there's no geometry there. Of course your brushes aren't smooth. So a lot of the brush smoothness that I get has to do with my geometry levels as well as my brush settings. But the 0.03 or 003 and the 10 here in roll distance and lazy step are helping that as well. Let's get back up there. Yeah, 5's fine. So I'll always argue intentionality. Because if you have things that are kind of going someplace and then they don't go anywhere, you're trying to follow it and there's no logical thing, it's annoying. It just means you were lazy. Don't be lazy. Do your work. Because to be deadly honest, it's that extra little percentage of work that makes the professionals professional. You know, when you see work that you're like, oh wow, that's great, it's because, well, that's something, you know, it's because that work is not lazy. That's a big factor for sure. And the other thing about the bio and all of this is that you just got to remember it's like stacked filaments, right? You know, muscle and tendon fiber, things that are tying to one another and then they roll over each other. And it's just this like stacking of thin fibrous sheets. And that's what really sells that anatomical stuff. Or that is the vocabulary of anatomy. Well, if you lived close enough for me to wake you up and taser you, I'd be more than willing to taser you to keep you from being lazy. You know, I feel really, when I was a kid, OCD was torture, you know. But now I feel really blessed to be absolutely batshit crazy OCD because, well, I can't not work. You know, not working isn't an option for me. And so, in that sense, the OCD has really become a big benefit for self-employment because if I don't work, I get weird and I have anxiety, and it's not pretty. not pretty. Yeah, trust me. I know it's sad. Yeah, crazy has helped me in my trying to educate myself in ZBrush for sure. Because I just work. I mean, it's really like what I do. I don't do much else. And remember to look at your piece from a bunch of different directions. Because, you know, as I sit here and I'm seeing these lumps and I'm trying to get these things that seem tense, but I see these shadow dips. Well, often it's things like this, right? So, and I'm not at this point yet, but it's just, I'm thinking about it at this point where I'm identifying these issues. I'm not trying to fix them yet, but so like I'm sitting here stroking on this, right? And it's not working because if you can see here, there's a little shadow there, there's a little shadow here, there's a high point here. And I'm like trying to stroke that out. Well, it's not going to come out that way. And so, you know, when you're trying to create tension, once you decide that's what's happening, we'll then come in and get it sort of not lumpy. Lumpy curves make weird curves because they don't read well. You don't really know what the intentionality of the curve is, and so it just gets weird. See, like, if you're trying to smooth something like that out, it's going to take you forever. It's not going to work. Just move it to where your surfaces are pretty close. Get nice, good step overs. You can come back in, kind of hit it to get it sort of smoother. Right? Because at this point, we're just trying to get flow and rhythm in. Trying to define our planes and surfaces. And where they transition. I wouldn't know. They tell me sanity's okay. I don't know. I've never had it. Don't know what it means. I've always been kind of a lunatic, so yeah. Made me good at what I do, so. Well, made me crazy enough to put in the hours to be good at what I do. I don't know if OCD necessarily. Well, another thing, it allows, or it does not allow me to be lazy, you know, because if I'm looking at something and it looks stupid, my brain just is not going to let it stay that way. And then we sort of have a rough flow going. And now I'm just trying to define layers. And what I mean by layers are steps, right? This is going behind this. So this needs to be above this. So we knock this back until that's below. And I may come in here and reverse it at some point. It's not that these are the finished things. It's just sort of the next step I'm taking to try to identify my surfaces and try to figure out where everybody is, what's going on. And the other night someone mentioned that, oh, well, if it takes this long, you know, I'll just use CAD or whatever. And, well, that's cool. The big difference is this is not, what you're seeing here is, I'm not really trying to be super fast, you know. I'm more interested in, at this point, in the process of discovering what's happening. I mean, you know, we've changed quite a bit from the concept, and just by deciding that the concept's different, we just changed the vocabulary, and the piece became very different. And so the real benefits, you know, I get a lot of CAD users who are using like Matrix and Rhino, and Matrix in particular is very WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. You slide some things around and you can have a part that's printable and you're going, you know. Yeah, this is just it's the normal fan. I just have mine, it's leaning against the table, not itself, so I slide it on the table. And since, wow, breakdown. Hold on. Everybody's in the wrong place. The mic's, oh, there we go. Like everything's loose all of a sudden. Everybody gets to see me struggle with. Well, I mean, you're just trying to find a black stone? I mean, there are tons of like jet and onyx. I think really it's just finding something you can get for the right shape. I mean, like on some of the, what some people would consider the cheesy gem dealers, because they're selling much less quality stones than most jewelers are going to be hunting for. But for small projects and things that are not, you know, you're not trying to make a $50,000 ring. Things like, what's it called, like Alpha Imports. Like I think they have like black diamond pretty affordably if you're just looking for a round, and you can say, oh, look, it's a black diamond. I don't think they're too pricey. Hold on. I think it's Alpha Import. Yeah, there. Well, look, 10 carat weight of black diamonds, lot size, 8 to 10 carat too, for $399. That's 10 carats of stones, roughly 2 to 4 carats a pop. Here you can get, oh, that's rings. One day, why look, you can get a 4.5 millimeter black diamond for just $25. And I mean, you know, they're real stones. They're not fake. They're just not you know, they've been irradiated, they've been all kinds of stuff, and a lot of the stone people are pissy whiny bitches about a lot of the stuff, and so yeah. But and there are a couple places like this. There's a woman in Minnesota that does some really beautiful cabochons, but you can see they have all kinds of stuff here. I mean, and they sell a ton of stuff, and you just go through and you can get all kinds of stuff, but it's easy, you know, something like that's easy. Man. My sinuses are going off. I'm out of liquids. Sorry guys, give me a second. I'm dying here. Let me get some water. Sorry about that. That was a wow. That was a elongated commercial for Alpha Imports. I think. Sorry. Whew. My sinuses just dumped in. For those of you who I said that I like this Saturday, I completely missed everything. I was sick as a dog. I couldn't get out, and I don't know how to leave. I still suck at setting up my Twitch stuff. I don't know how to just throw up a sorry, I'm dying, I won't be here today kind of thing. And I downloaded Streamwares or whatever that is to try to get a bot going, and I downloaded a thing and then it was just empty. Like I have to like it's ridiculous. Oh yeah, no, my sinuses blew up this weekend and I couldn't, my voice was gone. I was trash. When the barometer blows out, sometimes it really just gets me. Come on, you. Alright, fine, you're gonna be like that. Lower your resolution, smooth it out, move it. Crap. Okay. Back up. Yeah. I'll have to look at my email. If you ask me, send me an email or ask me when I'm streaming on my thing, and I'll dig it up for you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a long night tonight. I'm kind of still not super well. One sec. I'm going to text my. I'm going to ask her to bring me some tea. That's it is a, yeah, Messenger. That works as well. I when people actually post on my I'm trying to get my my housemate to send me see if she'll bring me some hot water. Because until that sinus pill kicks in, I'm dying over here. I gotta disable those alerts. Really annoying. When I'm streaming, they're annoying. Man, oh man. It was like everything just gave out. And I have to hold out for 20. All right. Kind of getting the feel. This may still be too swoopy. I have to break that up a little bit. For now, we're okay. All right. I just don't have Ashley's slobber acumen here. We could turn this into slobber, but he's just so much better at slobber than I am. I don't have the slobber thing down. And like, don't be afraid to just nuke a section. Oh no, my business partner is very good to me. She's putting her kids to sleep right now though, so I get to wait. No, I will say that Karen is very good to me. She's a very conscientious woman. And hopefully she is going to pimp the living hajibas out of earrings. Not happy with it all. What to do there? It's funny, I don't usually work with music, but now that I've been streaming, and I can't play my books on tape while I'm streaming, I've gotten used to listening to music. And I'm like, oh, I don't have my music. Got no rhythm. No beat. Woo-hoo-hoo! And the nice thing is like you can get that sculpting in, but don't be afraid to move it around, you know? Get that tension back into the part. Kind of push things around, get them where you want them. I just closed tool. I did. No, I do not have music on. That's what I was saying. Because I have I listen to, what do you call it? Spotify or whatever, and then every once in a while SoundCloud. I don't want to put anything that could cause grief as far as unregistered music. I haven't had much problems from the DJs that I listen to for the most part, but there was one that got hammered on one of my feeds, and I don't know what it is. And yeah, there's no way I want Pixelogic's feed to get silenced because I was playing acid crunk. I don't think they would be very happy with me for that. In fact, I'd make wagers on something I signed. They would be very unhappy with that. Oh. Ash, I was saying I'd love to turn that into a slobber moment. I just don't have that natural slobber thing you have. It makes me just a little slad. A little slad. It makes me sad that I'm missing the slobber. Woo! And so now that we sort of have our rough lines in, you can kind of put weight into them and remove weight from them. I'm gonna do myself in again, I think. Sorry, guys. Dying over here. It's funny, I could tell the barometer shifting. Negotiating my gold leafing right there, sorry. The crab must be gold leafed. Well, yeah, it'd be tricky. No, without a doubt. The thing about making, let's say, a ring or something like that slobbery would be like, let's say we're doing it here, right? You know, you'd imply the thickness, and then you could have like one thing over here that comes out and goes to there, you know, something in that vein. And you can print it, but if you want to make molds of it, it becomes really pain in the nutsack. we were discussing the difference between water gilding and oil gilding for you know, gold leafing. And her mentor, and she's hired by him every once in a while to come help. Like, this guy was the guy who does like Rembrandt frames and stuff. He's like really one of the best frame restorer and producer out there. And she's like, I'm gonna take the crab to him and see what he has to say. I'm like, that'd be great. Yeah, actually I have. I have a few of their books. Actually, I think that's where I got the first copy of Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, but the one they just redid and is actually on Audible is great. Is that the one that like anyone could read? Oh yeah, no. And she does spectacular leafing. That's why I'm having her do it instead of me. She's like, yeah, here, we're gonna do it this way, and like she makes her own shellacs and all kind of mad. She painted that. She's an incredible painter. My friend Sarah Takahashi. She is a badass. I love her work. I have quite a few of her paintings. But unfortunately, most of my paintings are in storage right now, so I don't have them hanging in. I remember I gold leafed. I was gold leafing. I did a little sculpture and then we gold leafed it for this commercial. And, you know, we bought a ton of gold leaf. And it was so funny. I gold leafed everything I owned. Everything in the house was gold leaf. We'd gold leaf everything just because it's fun. It's like, yay, gold leafing. See? See what happens? Little Miss Contrarian. Well, when I say read them, I don't mean... is that the place that, like, I could get a book, read it, and post it? If that makes sense? Not listen to them, but, like, it's a bunch of different people who read them. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's funny, like, you know, there's some actually really great readers in the group. And then like every once in a while you're like, oh, this is my favorite book. I can't believe they have it. It's not on Audible. I'm so stoked. And it's like a dingle dong reader. And you're just like, oh, wah. I was so looking forward to that. But for the most part, everyone's pretty competent. I wish I could remember what the book was where I was just so bummed because they didn't have it on Audible and it was really hard to find. Oh, it was Gunter Grass. It was Gunter Grass's The Flounder, which, how poetic. Very relevant in today's world. I don't know if you've read Gunter Grass, but he, yet again, another absolute badass. No, I feel you. No, let me tell you, I had my heavy metals and stuff. I was all about Mobius and the whole shebang. But I also went to a performing arts school, so our classwork and stuff had a lot to do with it. And yeah. That's where my OCD and the whole grade thing. Once again, where OCD helped. Yeah, Gunter Grass is great. He wrote The Tin Drum, but The Flounder is a particularly wonderful book. Oops. You don't need to go. Oh, I thought that was going up to 22. The Tin Drum's an awesome book. It was a good movie. I thought they did a great job with it, but it like only covers like the first half of the book. Because Oscar eventually does grow again. And becomes like a little crime lord. Have you seen The Tin Drum? What a deal. Oh, I bet that was pleasant for everyone. My little squeechings. I gotta remember my microphone's good. That's gotta be like totally torturous. That's a little better. Give me some of that weird creepy elbow thing going down there. Let's look at this. If I do this, this means we're going to have to Dynamesh and project. Might be. Missed. I don't think it'll be worth it. Yeah. Underwhelmed. We'll see. And that's the other thing I really try to get my students to kind of wrap their head around is, like, I don't know what's going on right here, right now. I'm not going to worry about it. Because there may be something else I do along the way that's going to help me make a decision about that. And these are problems you run into when you have no agenda to begin with, right? But they're not really a problem. Right? Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I went to an art college as well, but the art high school, it's kind of funny because, you know, in high school, your grades are still very important. And, you know, you're a little bit more still in the system of education, I guess. I mean, CalArts had nothing to do with accredited education at the time. I mean, it was a fun, weird, lunatic place. But the high school, you know, when we took classes, it was, you know, you're still kind of in that school mode, so you kind of paid more attention. Or I did, because, well, I was going to go to college, and damn it, I wasn't going to pay for it, so good grades was an important thing. Yeah, like I said, I turned a paper in at college a year and a half late. And that's funny. That's the beauty about CalArts. I was doing something, and one of my old teachers came by and was like, "Tomasz, you know, you still have an incomplete in my class." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you never turned in that paper." I'm like, "Oh, what was it about?" He's like, "Blah, blah, blah." I was like, "All right." And I wrote my paper, turned it in, got a pass. All of a sudden the barometer shift, my sinus is shut down, my pill hadn't gone, I'm like choking to death. I'm like, hot water, can I get this? I'm dying. I appreciate it. Don't worry, they're coming back. We're just getting flows. Because eventually they're going to come in and you'll get your high point and you'll get your insertion point, you know. Then you come back in and as it stretches, you get your scoops. And then you're really getting the stretching, you know. But I'm still trying to decide overs and unders and not quite there yet. You can do it. Oh, she came to look for the jewelry. Ash, were you here when I showed the sample jewelry we just got from the factory? The sample parts. I don't know if you could see, that's one of the earrings. I don't know. Yeah. But they look good. I was pretty happy with it. We just have a few more color test things and yeah, coming along good. Hopefully we can sell the living hajibas out of them so we just get a little cash cow. And then I can figure out this friggin'... I'm so slow at the education stuff. It takes so much work for me to organize and try to figure out the modules. I think I told Pixelogic I'd have something to show for him and I'm just like, what? I don't think it was very good. I'll show pics the next time. Doesn't matter, we're just having a nubby elbow thing. I'm done. Done. I have nothing. Something will come. Eventually. It'll come. Well, I'm trying to set up a certificate course so I can do certifications, but sort of in the vein of Shane's course where it's preset modules, like all the basic stuff, and then you test where it's testable, so I can say, yes, you are certified that you understand this information. Because in the jewelry world, a lot of these companies, they want to know that, you know, for them to pay for it through the corporation, they kind of have to justify it to the money person by it being something that is certified, you know, where you have a grade. There is a test, you know, X, Y, and Z is learned. And so I'm trying to do that. And I mean, guys, I'm not the most organized person in the world when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I start to, it's where my OCD does me no good, because I'll start working on one module and then I'll sit there and I'll futz with it, and I'll work on one module and then I'll futz with it and futz with it. And then it's like 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh my God, I mean, this was how to navigate. Are you kidding me? You know, because what I view as basic ZBrush information through my classes, I've discovered is like above beginner level, because I assume you know how to zoom, you know, so it I'm trying, I'm working on it. It's just been a really busy couple months here. I thought I was going to have a lot more free time. Well, I thought I'd already be in Spain, and by not being in Spain, I've had to deal with different freelance issues. And it's just been like, whoa. When things aren't how I plan, I don't necessarily, I turn into a mess. You know, I just need a babysitter. I need someone who goes, hey, Tomas, your bills are paid. Hey, great. Hey, Tomas, that's done. Oh, great. Why don't you just sit there and sculpt? Oh, that's wonderful. That's what I'm looking for. A full-time live-in babysitter. Paul Galbraith's, what's his navigation system? I mean, I don't. What is he? I mean, we're gonna go from, you know, I have to include just the absolute dirt basics, and then what's alt navigation? I mean, in what kind? I mean, I use alt when I navigate. What specifically? Click zoom and alt the way wasn't that? I mean, right click zoom. I don't even know what that means on my stylus, honestly. Okay, hold on. Right click Alt. Okay, so that's Alt zoom left click, and that's that's Alt zoom right click. Control right click zoom. Am I an idiot? I don't know. Am I? I don't know. Oh, you even put T in it. You're awesome. Oh, you're a rock star. I was just like, I just need hot water. I'm dying. Hello, hello. How we doing? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Alt, right click. Well, yeah, that's how you zoom. Is there a difference between that and that? That was right click and left click. I don't know. Well, yeah, that's not special navigation. That's how you navigate. Alt, and then let go and it zoom. Is there? Right? I mean, that's not tricky. I mean, that's how you do it, right? I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm serious. I don't know. It's right. That's the only way to do it, isn't it? Right. Sorry, once again. But what's the difference? Control. Oh, I see what you mean. Interesting. No, I've never done that in my life. It's all Alt and then zoom. I've never used Control right click. Interesting. Has it always done that? Has it always done Control right click for zoom, or is that new? That's funny because I've never ever used Control right click for zoom. Always hold down because you're panning around and you want to zoom in. The only thing that's confusing about it and what people do and why it seems confusing. So you're moving around, you find what you want to zoom in, you zoom, and people then push the button again. And that's what makes it squirrely. So, you're coming here, you let go, you zoom in, and where people kind of muff this up is they'll touch Alt again. And if you hold, you have to release Alt. Because if you hold down on Alt, or if you touch Alt again, it'll go back. Oh, that's funny. I never knew that was zoom. Has that always been that? I never learned that. I never learned the control. I don't think. No, Control Alt. No, it's always Alt and zoom. That's. See, now you're confusing me. Now I don't know what I use Control for anymore. You see? It's funny. I did not even know that was a thing. So yes, I guess I do teach Paul's Alt system. I'd be really interested to know if that has always been that way. Because the way I learned was the Alt and the slide. It's the only way I've ever known. Because, you know, some people are like, oh, it's confusing, and then they'll do something, you know, they'll try to write something to fix issues. And I mean, I think I got 2.5. That's when I started. And I don't know if that's but that's how I learned it. I don't. Is there anyone out there who knows that? How many fingers you got? Holding down everybody's alt. No, now I have to ask Paul if that has always been like in the older versions, if that was like that, because I mean, I might have. So that's just. So that's just alt. You hold down Control and you zoom, and that's not releasing alt. That's alt release, and that's alt right click. Oh. So if you're holding down alt, you press. Oh, now see, that takes you back out somewhere. That zooms you, but it zooms you someplace weird. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only way I've ever learned. Oh. Now, yes, if that's something that has to do with the Mac version, I have no clue. I use a PC. That could be why I have absolutely the worst time in the world navigating on a Mac, though, if it's something like that. Because if they're different key combinations, because I remember we did a live thing at Ryan's and someone needed a computer and I let them use mine, and then I was trying to help this guy who brought his own Mac, and I was so frustrated I couldn't teach him. I had no idea. I mean, the navigation was so frustrating I wanted to throw myself off a cliff. Oh, I was peeved. Yeah, that was no fun at all. What's super funny, man? I had no idea that there was any other way. Well, I was a Mac user for decades, and then once I went into the computer stuff, I mean, Mac doesn't build a computer like mine. You know, Mac doesn't. They used to. You know, you used to be able to build a Mac out, you know, to your specs, but now it's all these combined air conditioner looking things, and you can't build your own. You know, you can't get something with 136 gigs of RAM with a new processor in it and blah blah blah. You know, it's just, yeah. I mean, even Adobe now builds on PC and then converts the build to Mac, where Adobe used to build on Mac. Well, I mean, Mac does some things great. You know, I mean, I have an iPhone, and I like some of there are a handful of programs. There's a program I use called OmniFocus Pro, and it ties in with Siri and the different ways you say things, or it goes to different lists, and it's nice because it allows me to be like at my machine, and I don't have to think about going someplace else to set up, you know, appointments and to-do lists, and it geotags. It's just like a magnificent program for me, but they don't make it for the like for Android. So I had an Android phone for a while, and then my friend showed me OmniFocus Pro, and then I got a Apple Watch, and that system is just butter smooth for me. So it's worth having an Apple in that context. I could care less. I just want machines that work. If you provide me with something that works, I'll use it. And yes, I am the person who will say, if you both of you provide me something that works, I will buy the cheaper of the two. But if one looks a lot better than the other, you might get me there. If there's a real dramatic thing in the looks, but it has to be dramatic if it's a big price difference. But no, I started out as an Android user and then moved to iOS, and I haven't been disappointed with it. I mean, to be deadly honest, I've never had something really go wrong with my phones, other than, you know, dropping it and dumb stuff like that. But I have no complaints, really. You can get that beautiful material right here at your local Pixelogic store. Pixelogic. Under... Where's downloads? Is it download center? I don't know why that download center is in good help, because matte caps. Come down here to matte. Scroll down a bit. Mod Dirty Blue 1. Copy. Oh, you can download it right there. I can see that. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. But, I mean, you know, I can't see prompt my way out of a paper bag. I'm not... For someone who has decided to make computers their living, I am the most computer idiot person in the world. I'm really just a goofus when it comes to technology. I mean, you got to remember, I was a professional traditional sculptor. My best tools were 800 years old, and then they showed me ZBrush, and I was like, okay, you know what? All this is going to be obsolete. I better get my head out of my butt, get a computer, and figure this out. Man, well, 11 years later, I'm saying the same thing. You know, I need a new computer. I need to get my head out of my butt and figure this out. Hey, no problem at all. That's what we're here for, right? I mean, I know how entertaining I am. I'm sure that I think I have better chances of offering information than just pure entertainment. It's funny, I keep joking. when I'm in Spain, one of my friends literally is just breathtakingly beautiful. She's a stunning creature. I mean, she's an incredibly talented, beautiful woman. And I just want to have her come over during my streams and sit around and talk to me during my streams on camera, because I figured that would boost my attendance. Since because we're very funny. He's really pretty. I get mugged by the Me Too movement. They're like, "You exploitative bastard." Come on, you can do it. See, from here you get sort of that joint look, but like from right here it looks like poo. And that's what I mean. Sometimes that initial concept doesn't ride it, and it's just easier to make it less anatomical and just something that doesn't read horribly. And these two curves aren't necessarily working super well together. And that's when I was talking earlier, when I was saying, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I said, oh, something will come. This is what I mean. You start looking at it and you're like, okay, well, those two curves aren't going to work together. So I'm going to make this a break in the curve. So now you're not wanting them to meet. That's more like a little hitch. And see, now you're not, that's not nearly as offensive because it's not trying. You know, they're not close. So that's what I mean, that some of these problems resolve themselves as you move along. And then you just make decisions. Do you want them to be contrasting or complementary or conflicting? See, these two don't go together. I don't know. But I do know that we're going to bring it in some, because from the top, I don't like not being able to see through there. And that's what I mean. You just keep looking at it, looking at it. We're just sort of creeping up on it. Well, you just, well, now I see why people are perplexed. Literally, I only knew that there was one way to navigate. I really have to ask Paul or Joseph to find out if that is a new thing or if it's always been like that. Because if it's always been like that, I don't understand why you would have used the alt. I mean, well, yeah, I do. Because the other thing that people really get, like my new students get perplexed by, is that Control, Alt, and Shift are used for so many different things that really have nothing to do with one another. Intellectually, it seems very bizarre. But when you're using it, when you really just have those, it's really these three keys, and then your space bar. Yeah, well, Ash said she wanted something that was anatomical, fleshy, biological. So yeah, whenever I'm doing something like this, because this kind of stuff where it waves in and out, this can become watery trippy anatomical, really, or by organic very quickly, and how you make it, you know, like this could be a wrist bone, it could be a thumb joint, you know, it could be a knee going over a tendon, you know, it's all really the same stuff. Yeah, because, you know, almost all this navigation is literally just the Alt key. I just find it easier. It's all right there. You don't have to flick between buttons or anything. You just... but until that's in your head, you know, that can be super confusing, you know, because it's like, okay, well, I'm subtracting something, I'm adding, I'm subtracting, oh, I need to move, Alt, let go, move, Alt, you know, move it around, Alt, I can be, you see what I mean? I find it, all of those things in the Alt key allows me to sculpt and navigate together a little bit more intrinsically, I guess. But I can see where, until you're used to that, you're just like, but Alt subtract. How is Alt move? But you not Alt is zoom? You know, I mean, I get it. And you can see how we were just putting chunks in, and so now I'll come in and start to define. I still have some defining or some rough design. This is dead to me. And this, you know, now that we have those lines matching, we can kind of play with a little more. You know, this might have a twist in it. So these two things I don't know what I'm doing with yet. And you'll notice I won't stop and try to work it out. I'll just keep moving. This is a little flowy to me, right? You probably need to put, you know, another hitch in here. So that stuff's going someplace. If that's the case, this is fat. This isn't real good to me right now. Yeah. I mean, that started out as a organic thing, or as a wavy thing, not as a anatomy thing, so it's not completely jiving with me. And, you know, just come in and move it around and see where you like it, you know. Instead of making it wave across, maybe we bring it down here and have it hitch over. Right? Because when I did like those knuckles, we were coming up the ring, but this is just pudgy and not really doing much for me. And the beauty of selective undoing is we can always go right back to it if I don't like where we went. Right? This just sort of reminds me, this is all kind of Beksinski knuckles. Does anyone not know what I mean by that? Has anyone not seen Beksinski's flute player? Beksinski is really one of my idols. The dude was amazing. And met him, he was just super cool. We had actually talked about doing some things together, and then yeah, he was killed by his son's friend over a box of change on an easel. They were, I guess he was junkie, broke into the studio, and on his easel he had like a little box of change. And that's what they broke him for. He came down, found him, and the kids stabbed him over a box of change. show you. This is worth looking. Wittelsbach. Here you go. I love that guy. He's rad. This is the other one that's just fantastic. Look at that. He was a tortured fellow. I guess that's what happens when you grow up in Poland with Nazis around, huh? Kind of fork you off. I always have Beksinski in my head whenever I'm doing anything like this. I mean, just like that concept of motion, you know, how he retains motion is just amazing. He was fantastic. But what I love is he did all that incredibly dramatic, awesome painting, and then he discovered Photoshop and just started making some of the weirdest, trippy, bizarro Photoshop shit you've ever seen. You're just like, okay. I mean, it was quite a departure from his paintings. You're just like, wow, you're out there. He's like, I'm just exploring it. It's like, yeah, you are, dude. You were going at it, man. Oh, good to see this. Okay, let's do Beksinski. This one, my favorite pieces ever. I tried to buy that painting for years. They would not sell it. They were having none of it. He thinks like he was just, look at this. What the hell? Oh my god, he was so funny. Just just look at that. Just this concept of catching like an entire, it's time, you know, you're catching the entire path of motion like at the same time. That's a crappy rendition of that. That's a really fantastic painting too. It was just so awesome. He was so awesome. A real crime right there, boy. Well, here, since we're at 2 hours, let's just go to higher res, and since this part has got some flavor, we'll go there. Yeah, no, without a question. Yeah. Yeah, they're incredible. And I mean, just how it's an amazing collection of Thunderbirds. Yeah. Like, as in like Thunderbirds, puppet Thunderbirds? Yeah, no. I mean, you know, everyone's like, oh, Tomas, you know, Giger's obviously your inspiration. I'm like, really? I'm a lot meatier than that. I mean, you know, like I said, Louis Sullivan, Beksinski, Mobius. I mean, these are the guys. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, I was influenced by Giger, but what's really funny, a lot of my Gigerism was actually there before Giger, and it really came from Louis Sullivan. And I think that if you look at Louis Sullivan's work, like just my conceptualization of form folding under one another. Does everyone know who Louis Sullivan is? Oh, I have all. I'm a Thunderbirds geek. I grew up with the Thunderbirds. Oh man, that's awesome. That makes me even happier. We're gonna just try to finish one little area here. Normally I'd go on for a while, but my throat's trashed, guys. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do an 8-hour stream tonight. I know it's sad that I'm apologizing for not doing an 8-hour stream, but I feel bad. But we'll finish a little area. But as you can see, I'm not drawing lines anywhere, right? I'm building up surfaces that then have differences, which in turn form linear delineations, but I'm sculpting to my lines. I'm not drawing them. Now, at the end, every once in a while, like, you know, there's some things that do need, you know, just each plane may need linear delineations here, but that's breaking up a plane. Right now, we're really just trying to get our levels where we want them. And as you'll hear me yap all the time, a three-dimensional surface delineation compared to a surface with a bunch of lines on it is much more compelling. Let's do this here. Right? Gigerism. But here, I don't know, I might do this every time. I don't know if I bore the hell out of everyone because I keep doing this, but so when I was a kid, I remember going to Chicago and seeing this storefront. This one, so you get an idea of what the whole building looks like. Let's find a detail of it. Full size, large. I have all these things in a folder somewhere here. But seeing this building changed my life. And I mean, just look at this stuff. It's madness. You gotta think, this dude is like 1800s. I mean, this turn of the century. This is the apex of American Art Nouveau in my book. But I mean, you can see I use linear ridges to define stuff, use steps to change surfaces, have things going over and under. I mean, this is the visual dialogue that I started sculpting with. And then, of course, you know, I was a creature geek, so I started putting little bones and weird things in it. And then, yeah, and then my mom bought me the Alien and the Omni with all of Giger's stuff for Alien, and I was just like, yeah. Let me just look at this stuff, man. Are you kidding me? It's just It's madness. This dude was out of his gourd. I love him. He's awesome. But this is where my real roots in sculpture are. And, you know, it... Come on, go away. And then, you know, because, you know, we were the Harryhausen generation and Sinbad and all that crap. You know, those were the best. There was nothing like it. King Kong, old King Kong, and you know, once you get into creatures and all that stuff, you start digging into it, and so now everything you have is like you draw monsters and all kinds of goofy stuff. And then Alien hit, and you're like, oh, there it is. My mom was like, I thought you were so crazy for years. I really thought you were unstable. And then, look at this. You're not. You're right there. Super funny. So now we start breaking up and just start giving surface tension, right? And so you have lumps and scoops, and that's how you start defining your tension. Like, all right, where's it coming from? Scoop. Okay, so that's going to cut up under there. So this will dig under there. And so now that's pinching out from under there. You know, you just kind of think of it as muscle fiber. And you can see how that's sort of riding over that, but it's still this way you come in, you just push it back so your tension is a little bit more realistic. You still have that huge dent, but that's okay because we have this shape here, so I'm not worried about that. Technically though, to make that look right, anytime you'd have a big dent, that'd be a big crossover, right? So you just come in and fill it up a little. That's a scoop. And so remember, surfaces have weights, right? So this isn't just doing this. We're trying to get scooping up under tension and then kind of bowling over like that. And then this is a different curve. We really want all of these surfaces to read at different angles. And so that's what I'm trying to block in now. We're taking that next step of blocking in. Yeah, no, man. There's some absolute crazy stuff in the world. I mean, I'll tell you, until you've actually done a cathedral tour, and when I mean a cathedral tour, I mean go and see the great cathedrals of the world and do it like in one shot, you know, spend, you know, a couple months and just go hit cathedrals and just start looking at. And I went as a sculptor, you know, so all I'm looking at is sculpting. And yeah, you know, it's mind-blowing that you can take the entire resources of a nation or a community, you know, 3 entire generations to accomplish a civil works project. You know, I mean, it's just like, I think what Chartres took 350, 400 years to do. How long did? Sorry, now we have to do a Google search on that one. Sorry, I'm I don't hear a damn thing about my spelling. Yeah. Well, how long did it take to build? Okay. 1160. Are you really not going to tell me how long this thing took to build? Throughout the 12th and 13th centuries. There's blown. Oh, you're killing me. Come on. Wouldn't you think, oh, this cathedral took X amount of time to build? Would be like, there you go, groundbreaking in 1114, completed in 1220. Oh, so that one actually didn't take quite as long. Well, you know, they actually kicked that out, didn't they? I mean, some of these things took like 150. Can you imagine something taking 150 years to build? I mean, that's how you do it. I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. That's all I can. That's commitment to the gig right there, boy. But Charts is one of my absolute favorites. It's so friggin' incredible. And you know, it's like you can understand how, you know, an entire community where you're living with the pigs in your house for warmth, you don't own anything, you know, everything you give, you're giving to a landlord, or, you know, it's all serfdom at the time. And, you know, you literally are a dirt farmer. And, you know, you see this thing being built your entire life. And you know that your great-grandfather saw it, or, you know, worked on it, and all of a sudden you go into this thing and everything around it's just dirt farming. I mean, you can see how you can believe in a God. I mean, it's a completely spiritual thing, because, I mean, that's just got to rack your mind. I mean, we have skyscrapers, and you walk into one of these things and you're just like, what? Yeah, don't laugh. Have you seen those guys that did the foam? I want to say it was milled. I don't think it was printed, but it's just like, it's like a scoop and then like a buttress. And I didn't, all together, it was quite a beautiful thing. Like the details, well, I mean, you can see what I'm doing. I'm like, their details sucked, but you know, you step back from it, look rad. But what's funny is, this is what I mean by mesh control. I'm sculpting at 22 million polys, and I'm still getting tessellation here. That makes me nuts. And that's when I jump to much more polys, but this will do for now. But you can see how we blocked it up, and now just by changing our surface directions a little, right, you know, scooping, lumping. And that's the kind of cool thing about the fleshy stuff, is that it's, you know, there are tensions, right? So even in something that's a protuberance, it still has little scoops out of it and stuff, and it's still transferring over to other things, you know, and it's just neat stuff. I like it. But once again, I haven't used anything except clay tools up to this point. Oh, well, I mean, I've used move and pinch and that kind of stuff. But, you know, as far as a brush, And I really, the nice thing about clay tubes is, you know, as I get in there and I start stroking on things, that's really giving me my visual, I lay down my visual cues for what my pattern's going to be under it, you know. And see, when I do start to finish, these are the areas that you will come back in and use a line tool, right? That's about as detailed as I can get with the clay tubes, and that's why when you come back in, you can really punch your definition with your lines. But I don't, right, it'll clarify those forms, but I find the forms before I try to draw lines. And this also, I like sort of how this textures out, because once again, clay tube sort of acts like a layer tool, and so you can just sneak up on your forms, right? Just take this one. Does that not work on symmetry? Did I turn symmetry off? Ah. All right, well, that explains why I think something's going on and then it's not. Don't turn symmetry off. Tardos. Yeah, that one's gotten me the last couple weeks. I keep doing that. But at that point, that's what mirror and weld's for. You can try a smart reproject. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't at all. Well, you can always lower your resolution, like keep this, lower your resolution, mirror and weld, project to one side, flip it and project to the other if your machine can't handle that processing. I mean, there are ways to get there, you know. Oh, I do it all the time. It's ridiculous. It was funny. It's like smart resymmetry works so well sometimes, and then sometimes it's poo. You like get this weird like off jog bizarreness, and I wish I understood why. But one of the reasons that I didn't realize for probably way too long, probably should have figured it out before that, is that if you leave in ZRemesher does the same thing, is that when you do it, don't have symmetry on, because it will remesh to that symmetry, and sometimes that does completely bizarro things. Yeah, anytime with your remesh, smart resim, any of that stuff, if you wind up with weird stuff, first thing to do is check and make sure symmetry isn't turned on. And once again, you sort of see like these lumps and stuff that I'm putting in there. A lot of that finishing comes back when I use SK trim and H polish for this, but like you can come back in and really kind of clean and define these like little your bony things, right? And you still have sort of some direction, but that's finishing stuff. I'm still not. The other thing I've noticed about some of our other Pixelogic presenters is they're spending more than one class period on these, or one stream period on these, so they're getting more stuff done. I always laugh. People like, oh yeah, you know, he's such a lunatic for detail and blah blah blah, which I am. But in the streams, often you'd never know that, because I'm just racing through stuff and trying to get stuff done in one stream. I don't know if that's necessarily the most productive way of going about things. But for some of this stuff, I think it's important to see, you know, process. But maybe I'll start something kind of big and detailed and interesting, and then we'll just work through the whole thing over a couple of the presentations, because we don't get to this kind of finishing much in these. You can see I'm always looking for, and I know you all probably think I'm nuts, but those little dents and bobbles, you want to make sure that everyone's sort of doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's just wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. Too much. Yeah, exactly. I just kick through them. At least on my stream, I'm often doing just what I'm working on, so you get things at all kinds of different stages of completion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just keep your little brush moving. Yeah, and if you keep your if you keep your brush moving, you know, you're going to run into happy little accidents. Because especially when you get into this kind of stuff, I don't know, you don't want to think too hard about it. It's really about laying in your flow, get your visual rhythm going, and then from that visual rhythm, like, make decisions. And often, I mean, you've seen how much I've changed things, and I just go over, you know, I'm like, oh, do I want this to be, you know, sort of muscle fiber wrapping around something like that? Or as I'm doing it, you know, is it really just going to become another layer off of here that then cuts back? And if it does that, then we need to make that part of it. All right. You know, I have, I don't know, I'm just seeing lines. And so really what you'll find is a lot of time is spent being an editor as opposed to a creator. You know, it's identifying, and I would argue any good art. I mean, there's a handful of people out there who are psychotic, who really see every stroke and all of that. But I've been doing this a long time, and I'll tell you what, the artists that I've always found the most compelling and the most interesting really are allowing their subconscious to do quite a bit of the work. Because if you go in knowing, then you miss out on so much of what could be there. If you're not allowing for you know, transition, for, well, you know, like good old Bob says, those happy little accidents, then I really think you miss out a lot on what's happening around you. Because even if you have a solid design and you know what you're going into and you have a very concrete direction you're going, you know, the difference between the mood and a curve that goes like that, right, from there, or a curve that goes like that, are completely different feelings. And you don't, you know, I can draw this out, but I don't care how good an illustrator you are. If you go from illustration to 3-dimension, or if there is ever that transition between 2D and 3D in your work, you still make spontaneous decisions as you're working. Otherwise, like I said, you just, because rocking around, sometimes there are things that are just striking and wonderful that you wouldn't have noticed. Like, I don't draw anymore. I used to draw quite a bit, and I'm not proud of that necessarily. I'm not saying that but I'm still fighting to get good at this. I've been doing this 11 years. I guarantee you I have as many hours in this program as 90% of the people who have this program. I mean, my psychotic OCD said, okay, you want to get good at it? Then try, ding dong. And I mean, I've tried. But, you know, I've gotten more and more loose as I go on. And I'm always willing, I mean, you know, new brushes, new strokes, too much geometry, not enough geometry. And you know, you just never know where things go. And that's what's exciting about it. I'm willing to just, and once again, that willingness to allow things to happen is not necessarily the fastest production tool. And I wouldn't jibber jabber this much on something that you know, had a plan, had an agenda. But my point is that even if with a plan and agenda, and you have 5 things drawn, and you realize at the scale, because you can actually go back and look at it, you need 3 things drawn. Don't be, even if it's someone else's drawing. I mean, I feel like I'm experienced enough in this where I can honestly approach, you know, when I do freelance, where I can go, hey guys, you know, here, look, these are the 2 differences. Here, let's break away from that just a little, and let's get it from this, you know. And yeah, well, I mean, here we go. Exactly. Happy little accident. Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, well, think about South Park. I mean, they're generating one of those friggin' things a week. I mean, like, their turnaround times are ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary with them making, was it the human centipede? The human centipede was the one that the documentary was about. Yeah, turnaround. I mean, you know, I worked in the film industry. You had to get a lot of stuff done fast and all of that. But I'll tell you, you got, no matter what your time frame is, you have to. Well, okay, that's not true. Because there are people who really just don't give a shit about quality, and honestly, working for them, neither should you. You know, that's just, it's going to be a detriment to everyone, and because, I mean, they don't care, and if they don't care, then it really is about the time and the money, and that's it. And you know, there is no artistry. Well, I mean, you have artistry, you have your craft, but that's what you're bringing to the table. It's not about any of that. Yeah, sure, you know, and it happens, and you know, it has to happen, and it pays bills, and it's not a judgment call. But I don't know, I think if you're using ZBrush in any way, shape, or form in your production cycle, you know, I think that that concept of artistry is something that is the point of using ZBrush. You know, sure, there are things that are quicker, and sure, well, for fabrication, there are things that are quicker. For some of the pre-production design stuff, it's still, you know, concept artists and stuff, I think it's still quicker because you're removing steps from the approval process. But yeah, I don't know. It's rad. It's super cool. It's good shit. It's family friendly. My friend's daughter was down here. She's 2, and she was having a field day. She was like, yeah, rubbing around, scratching on stuff. It's funny because, you know, once you touch it and you realize that you're making things in 3 dimensions, it's like, what? Now, she didn't master navigation. Yeah. No, I mean, they tuned that sucker into a machine. And good for them. I left the industry because of stress. I don't know. It was very rewarding, and I enjoyed working on all kinds of things all the time, and you never knew what the next one was, and the problem solving and all of that. But when that much money gets involved, it gets ugly. And yeah, I don't know, who needs it? I don't. I'd rather make crabs and clown cat clown astronauts and weirdo jewelry, and yeah, I don't know. I'm done with stress, or as done with stress as I can be. Yeah. And it's funny, you notice I spent time on some of this stuff really close up, and you know, is this mattering? Does it matter? Well, at the moment, I had a rhythm, right? We've started to work on this, and now I can take some of that feeling and bring it out, and I might even smooth that out later. But just trying to find like that little visual vocabulary that we were running with here. And it's worth it wherever it happens, because now you've made some aesthetic decisions on the vocabulary of the part that you're working on. So that's not wasted time, even if you do trash it. Because, you know, all of that was pretty small, so we'll see what holds up. But because, you know, I had this knuckle built up, but it wasn't tying into... I just killed this? No. It wasn't really tying into anything, so we get to change it a wee bit. Right. Oh, no. When I say trash it, I mean, you know, I might do this to it because I need it to be deeper, even though it had a lot of subtle detail in it. I'm not afraid to, like, kind of go over it to make sure the over thing, because that did its job by helping me define the vocabulary that I wanted to use in the rest of the part. Because I don't, like, when I'm hunting for forms, I don't think I'm doing it in a logical progression. You know, it might be, you know, I'm just strolling around and, you know, it was this little intersection that made me go, right? Like that tuck in right there. And it was just like, okay, well, I like that part, so we'll start there. And so, you know, there was something that caught my eye right there that made me want to start there. And so, you know, whether it works or not, whether that should cut back in there, I don't know. I just kind of try to get my overall rhythm going, and then just kind of crawl around, and if there's a place that I'm not feeling yet, or something that's happening that I can't explain, because remember I said you really want to, you don't want to have mystery things, like, you know, let's say here, you know, we have this huge lump and it's kind of going under that and over this, and you know, you spent all this time and it has these things going on. Well, where's it go? I mean, well, does it even interact with this? Does it stop there? You know what I mean? Or does it, you know, it seems like you should at least have some of it coming out here. So I'm always looking for moments that I can start defining some of those things. And, you know, it's like, it's very easy to get yourself lost if you're, because even at this point I'm doing minute detail in some ways, but I'm still blocking out, so I'm not trying to get stuck into one area. I'm finding forms and rhythms I like, and then I'll tell you, you can never go wrong with studying traditional sculpture if you're, because, well, once again, I never used a tablet. I always had a Cintiq. So it's always been a very tactile thing for me, you know. I really feel that a Cintiq is just an extension of my traditional tool set. But I had a traditional tool set. You know, I think that, you know, there's some digital sculptors who I've seen their work, and I mean, the finish is beautiful. You know, they're they're great, but there's just something odd about them, and often it's the lack. I don't know. There's just, until you've sculpted something and held it in your hand and, you know, rotated around in your hand and sculpted and moved and walked around something, I don't think you have the same perspective as just someone who is doing digital sculpture and never sculpted anything. I think you perceive shapes differently. When, especially before printing, when people weren't getting models out of the machine, you know, where it was all just inside the machine, I think there are just some weird little things that, and often once I started doing the critiques and stuff, when you start to work through it, you start to see some of the things, and I don't know, it's funny, and that just could be me being a traditional sculptor going, oh yeah, because I've seen some digital sculptures just outrageous. Oh man, trying, guys, my throat's killing me here. Are you telling me that my symmetry's on or off? It was off for quite a while. Kind of bummed. Well, I'm not that bummed. It's not like I'm really work on this piece. You can see how putting a line in, defining a level, right? We've defined this as going over that. Come back in, fill it in, define your level, fill it in, cut it down, define your level, fill it in, take it down. It's just a really good rhythm for, you know, creating things that have dimensionality in there, a linear detail. And like when you have things going over and under one another, you know, I'm scooping here, but that prevents that from becoming like a single surface under there, if that makes sense. So now I'll just stroke over this, so underneath there you have a consistent face. We'll just knock this back down, knock those edges off just a touch, and then redefine the over. But then that gives you the feeling of an actual surface that's under the other ones. So now, because this is flesh, you probably aren't going to get that hard a line. And like I said, often I'll come in and, let's say, put that bone structure in, and then you know, get where the tendony feelings are. and then just come back in and stroke over it with, and now you have that stuff's in there. It has the bone, it has the tendon stroke, you know. It's just a back and forth thing, constant back and forth. Oh well, yeah. that is a big deal. Actually, you know, and that has something to do with it, honestly. I mean, a lot of the digital sculpting is too perfect, you know. And you know, the human brain, it gets it. And unfortunately, if it's super perfect, super technically on, your brain starts to disregard it, because the brain hunts for symmetry, but if it's perfectly symmetrical, the brain found symmetry and it moves on. The eye mapping software has really done some interesting studies with that. I still am trying to get my hands on eye mapping software to use live, like while creating, because there's some things that have done where they've analyzed sculpture and paintings, but most of that's masterwork stuff. It's not like contemporary art class stuff. It's all tied to marketing. Well, I mean, let's face it, marketing's where the money is, so of course it is. Hello, hello. Oops. Just sculpting some fleshy, meaty, by organic-y looking stuff. You can blame Ashley for this. She's the one who wanted bony, creepy stuff. So bony, creepy stuff we've done. Can someone uptime for me? How are we doing? It's almost midnight. Okay. We'll go over even another layer of the minute detail, and then I think I'm going to have to call it because my throat is going. All my friends in Europe are going to be bummed. I'm gonna quit early tonight. So now, you know, you kind of get a feeling of what's happening. We kind of defined our stuff. We started to get a little more defined, right? And so now we use lines and texture to start punching definition. Right? Now I tend to use SK Twist quite a bit, because what SK Twist does is it gives me a rolled edge. So it's one of it's actually a hair tool, I guess, but I don't use it as such. And so you just get a small, get your intensity just a little bit more. There we go. But you see what it's doing there? It's rolling. It's sort of is it a twist tool? Is that? There's a fold, I think. But he's done a really nice job. If you keep the Z intensity down and your size small, it allows you to come in, and so you just start defining some of these areas, right, where you want there to be some of this definition, right? And it's really good for, let's kind of get in here, like little moments like this, right? And you just punch it, and what you're doing is you're creating edges that catch light. See how that's really bright right there? See what I mean? And what's funny is when you get into printing in metal, these surfaces hold up very well. These rolls hold up very well. So it's a very good linear tool for printing. And it'll hold up really tiny detail. I'll show you the crab print at some point. I took it over to get gold leafed, but when it comes back, I'll show it to you. And you'll see how, you know, even on a Form 2, the amount of surface resolution we get is pretty awesome. And so here, when we're doing this, this looks very cartoony, right? You know, it's like, oh, it's real liney. You got to remember, these are tiny damn lines right now. But these lines, as opposed to taking your damn standard or any of these, there's a big difference. Here, let's just go right here, right? See how we did that? Now we do this. And this is changing the surface. This is a line on the same surface. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the VR sculpting. Like I said, I haven't. The only one I played with was on, was it the HTC? I can't remember what it was called. But it was big ribbons, and I mean, it wasn't. I mean, you could create really cool immersive rave environments with it, I imagine. You blow flames and stuff. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was cool as hell, but to call it sculpting, like actual sculpting, I'd be hard pressed to do that. And so I come in and define where I want some things. Now this is where line and texture, right? So all of these are reflective surfaces. And to really punch some of this back, too big. Get it small, and it you just right, turn that off. And I created this sort of form bump tool and it's sort of form soft, and then it's just throwing your spray. But what this allows for is texture, which will read as low gloss, right? And now you're using linear definition and texture to start to separate your surfaces. And you can see some of this is tiny, right? But it will not reflect light the same way a smooth surface will. And so they wind up being darker surfaces even at larger sizes, right? And so you can have something that isn't super deep. Hold on, let's go to this. Maybe that's too aggressive. Where's that other? Well, that sucks too. I think this will do. But you can see how much darker that is just because of texture. So right here you have these dents, right? But if we come back in and just in here, let me do a couple of to get back that deep. You know, from up here, that's a dramatic difference. And so you got to remember that you're sculpting in light. And so texture is a very, very good way of defining definition. The other thing I find that I do texture-wise with the form brush, or my form bump brush, is I'll come in and I'll put bumps in, I'll take away, put bumps, right? Make positives, make some negatives. And then I'll come back in with SK trim or H polish, and I'm just going to knock these down. And now that gives you some really interesting organic, you know, surface breakups, right? And so now you can come in, use your twist, and you can really kind of accent some of this organic edging. And this falls into that happy little accidents thing. You know, you kind of, once you start using it or develop a technique like it, you can then come in and it creates for some very interesting, nice organic surfaces. Once again, architecturally speaking, that's not going to help you much, but we're not doing it. Whoa, why are you so big? I don't know. I think that's Ma shiny. Another Ma brush. I assume it came from the standard download library. I've been collecting brushes forever. To be deadly honest, I have no idea where it came from. And so you can start to see how we start to define our surfaces with our textures. And now kick that up, and you also can do linear texturing. And the linear texturing I use a lot, but your eye will follow rhythm, right? I mean, if you want to direct the eye, we're making this little hash mark area here more important than the things around it because it's regular pattern or repeating pattern, and your brain identifies it and follows it and wants to know where it's going. And so by doing that to that, let's kick that back in a little. Let's go over the edges. All right. Now that's not very deep. You know, we have a lot of other things going on. But you can see how you just created a bright arrow on your object, right? So your brain is going to follow that pattern. This is more important than this, right? Because those little ridges catch light. It's a repeating pattern, and your brain wants to see it. Your brain likes repeating patterns. It follows repeating patterns. It wants to look at repeating patterns. Right? And so now we've just made that rather important. Now, let's say you want to pick this up. This is a way, when I was talking about intentionality, here, let's right. So it kind of wants to come out here, right? And we'll just and this is a very good way of telling your story, right? Our story is this travels under here. Well, now you take your repeating pattern, and now you can kind of make it bigger, 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 bigger. All right. So now come back in, kind of smooth it out. Get our brush size a little different. So we really want our eye to travel along this. Mask this off. Take something like SK cloth or something that has a drag on it. Start here. And come out. And so now, with texture, right, we're starting to define that this travels on. Don't get me wrong, the lazy mouse is really nice when you're trying to commit things, but I'm not a big fan of that just for stroking. Lazy Nezumi, old string I like, and so we need to sync it to this. We crashed some. Let's turn that up a little more. There we go. Weird. Alright, we bring it in. Oh. And I like the cloth, SK cloth at a low, because it does a similar thing as that roll does. It allows us to get a nice soft little round edge there. I will normally come back in and fill up the back side so it isn't round except on the front side. Does that make sense, right? See how our profile right here is, you know, that, right? You can see it on both sides. I'm just trying to get a directional highlight. So when you come in, let's go back a touch. So I'll often use these things that have half rounds, right? Inflate is another one that I'll use in situations like this where I'll take the edge. You inflate it. Just so we're getting, see this edge right here, that round? I want that reflection. And so now I'll take clay tubes and just come back in and fill it, or SK clay fill, come back behind it, right? And that way it's not a half dome. You know, you're trying for a silhouette that kind of looks like that, right? So you do something that inflates, you get the half round, and then you come back in and fill that up. So come back in, fill it up. You can use any of your flattens or your trim, SK trim. Come back around, knock this back. Clay tubes, put our little texture back in, right? And now you can see how reactive that edge is, right? That's going to reflect quite a bit of light. As opposed to, let's go back here. No? Oh, it's thinking. Set up your lazy Nezumi. Yeah, they're Sakaki Karu's brushes. He's a badass. Oh, okay. Well, a little farther than I wanted to go back, but look at how this edge catches light, right? You know, let's go back to our shiny thing here. Yep. Right? See that edge? And now all we did was, is it thinking? Oh, it is. Hey, Godorian. I'm dying over here. My throat's going. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to last. I'm trying. I'm trying to hold out. Right? Now, wait, is that all the way? I think I just, yeah, no. Whatever. I'll just redo it. And so let's look at our edge here compared to, oops. Oh, see, no, cancel. So we still have 46 of these bad boys. All right, there we go. Compared to that, right? And there's not a, I mean, you're dealing with, what's the height of that? I mean, you're dealing with under, well under, like a fifth of a millimeter. Right? Even here, going from the deepest part there to that, that's a tenth of a millimeter. Right? And look at how dynamic it is. And it's dynamic because it has this ball edge, right? Because you have this nice reflection surface from, you know, we're reflecting light from lots of angles. And now depending, you know, on how bold I do want it, I can come back in with like slash, or I can come in, mask it, and just tuck it under. On flatter surfaces, you can use slide. I use slide a lot, actually. I mean, like here, you mask, tap that down, grab slide, tuck it under, tap it with smooth. And right, I mean, this is like a fifth of a millimeter. And let's go back to a reflective surface and look at how dynamic those surfaces are. And these are things that hold up in print. They're nice, they're sharp, because a half round reflects better than just a straight, right? You see what I mean? So that roll tool is very powerful, or the SK twist tool is very powerful when you're trying to do really minute detail and have it show up. All right. And yeah, see here again, you know, we've implied this under, right? And this is where the SK twist can really help accentuate that concept of under. Right? And then all you have to do is come back in, SK fill, get that. And you still have that bright edge, right? So you know, with just a little bit of repetitive pattern, a little bit of texture, we've taken things that are very minute detail and made things that will stand up to printing. Now, I really tend to like to do a lot of this, and I'll even do it in some ways when it is even too much for the printer, in the sense of it's smaller than the investment sometimes, where it's just not something that's going to show. And I will still tend to put some of that stuff in because, well, I'm a firm believer that technology will get there one day. And the last thing in the world I want to do is redo all my damn models. But it's surprising what shows and what doesn't sometimes. And a lot of it just comes down to, well, print, and then you start to see what's there and what shows and what doesn't. And yeah, it's quite fascinating, actually. But you can see how just that little roll really helps punch that, how these ridges direct your eye, create patterns that your eye is going to follow. Right? All right. Let's see one more thing. No, we were rendering. Even here you can see these are bright surfaces. They won't polish off. You drop back, you get deep linear trenches. And then the stroke direction, you know, you're following the pattern of the stroke. And it's tiny. This is a little stud earring. And they actually show up super well. It's actually, this is quite impressive, honestly. I was like, holy Hannah. I can't import this now because I don't want to. These are all set up for rendering product that we're doing. I don't want to change my environments, but well, so I guess we'll just do that. Yeah, your stroke patterns really can dictate where your eye is going. And this is a reason that I hate super smooth stuff. It has no character to me. I just think all this goofy, high polish, super smooth, crappy plastic looking stuff just makes me nuts. Where you know, you start to put texture and things, and you're really guiding the eye, and you just have more control over where the eye goes with texture than not. Unfortunately, the jewelry industry, everyone's like, well, why isn't high polish? Because high polish is boring for the most part. I mean, you can have high polish, but when everything's just polished, it's like, where's the entertainment in that? But see, even when it's not quite so, you know, ridgy with cross lines over it, woo, spinning around, you can see how texture drives the eye. This is separated from this, right? And you know, you can have this be smooth, and that be ridgy, and those two things are going to stand apart, right? And they really do. I mean, from a 25mm miniature to, you know, a 32-foot sculpture, these techniques are actually very applicable to anything that's actually coming out of the computer, because unfortunately, you know, you don't get to make and bake your lighting into I'll have to finish it. Yes, I will finish it and send it to Ash. I need to find out her ring size. But I mean, does that make sense as far as like layering, rhythm, texture? Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, I would normally go a lot longer. My throat's just trashed. Thomas is gonna hassle me. Normally we talk. But see, you know, even like when you're scooping, it dictates direction. Brightness versus texture, angular direction. Your eye follows arrow shapes. You know, I mean, your eye is going to follow these things. And that's really, and that works with, I mean, it's the same for figurative work, creature work, animation, you know, it's design. I mean, it's just the basics of design, really. It's just we can do really quick, easy thingy-mabobs here. But here, I wonder if that crab image is big enough. Where'd you go? Oh, Photoshop, that's where it is. But you can see how, I mean, this is small stuff. And this is a bright render, so you're losing a lot of your depth. That's where we start to pixelate them. But you can see how you use rhythm to find the forms. It's a shame I don't have a picture of it from the back. But let's see. You can really see how we're using the linear definitions to allow your brain to follow these patterns, right? I mean, that one's pretty simplistic. And ridging to make you follow curves. That repetitive pattern, man, your brain hunts for it. Wow, that's just a crappy rendering. Go, Tomas. Right. No, 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 that's not what we want. Ah, sloppy fingers, come on. Come on, you. Oh my goodness. Alright, really. You're gonna make me insane. Don't we have more of these here? No. You know what? I know I have bigger renderings of these. Come on. What? No, no. We don't want audition. We're not doing sound effects. Here, let's just grab the close view. Get Photoshop up here. What numbers did we stop with? 68. Okay. Oh, no, no. Hold on. All right. That's not what I wanted to do. These are them. Where'd they go? That's weird. 1 second. Are they just untitled? Are they titled up here? That is so bizarre. I have pictures of all this in this green. Let's try the really give me some room. I have too much crap open that. Oh. That's for mouse. Come on. Give me my window back. Let's take here. I think these are bigger so we can actually get in and look at them a little. There we go. So you can see how, right, we're using these ridges are guiding the light in. You know, you're pointing with these, right? These repetition of patterns really pull your eye. Good night. Yeah, me too, man. I'm dying out here. But you know, we have these lines with dots, right? Repetition. Your eye wants to follow those patterns, even though we have a nice organic form, right? Those ridges keep your eyes a following. Right? You can see how your visual rhythm. It's all about just keeping your eye going. It's like, where's my eye going? Boom, boom, comes back up to here, out here. You know, it's just, you got to keep that eye active. Because the more things your eye sees, the longer it's going to sit there and try to figure out what's going on. And the longer your eye spends on it trying to figure out what's going on, you win. You have visual interest. People are trying to look at it, trying to see it. Is it a face? Are those eyes? Is it a mouth? Are they bones? I don't know. Is it a pelvis? Who knows? You know. You can see, just keep it moving. Really? You're not going to zoom in again? Alright, well that's what you get. I'm not zooming. Photoshop is not liking that at all for some reason. Hello. No, we finally decided to wake up. Right? Rhythm. And keep your object moving. Look around it, look what it's doing. And yeah, it just creates for nicer, more fluid. Yeah, I really would love to get this milled out of oak. Yeah, so anybody have any questions or anything before I decide to call this over so I can get another cup of hot tea and honey and like pass out? Excuse me. I'll sit here and fiddle for a minute while you guys think. If you have any other questions or anything you'd like me to give information wise, I'm more than willing to do so. And I do apologize that I'm quitting earlier than normal. My throat's not taking it. And I do stream on my channel, which is just TS Wittelsbach. And I tend to stream quite a bit. February is going to be a little funny because I'm house sitting someplace that has crap internet. But I'll be up like for the weekends and stuff. So I'd like to try to keep the critique stuff going. We'll see how it plays out because it's a 2-hour drive. I'm not exactly sure. You know, I'll obviously be up for my Pixelogic streams, and then I'll try to get up for others or do it in sets or something in that vein. But after that, I'll be at the internet. You know, I'll have no problems with the internet. It's just I need to house at the farm. Well, you're never better off with a mouse. A mouse has no pressure sensitivity. So, you know, if we look at my stroke here, right? I can do soft and hard. See the difference between the strokes? Let me see if I can do it a little smoother. Yeah, let's smooth that out so you can see it. Soft, you can see it get harder, thicker, and fatter. Yeah, let's see. And then this is a mouse stroke. Right? There's no pressure sensitivity. It's either all on or all off. And then you change your sensitivity up here, and you can do it. I had a student that was making beautiful pieces, and then he mentioned he was doing it with a mouse. We were like, "What? Are you high on crack?" So I've never worked on a smaller Wacom. I know lots of people who do. I mean, I'm dyslexic. I can't have that kind of disassociation. I've always had a Cintiq. I don't know what I'd ever do if I had to give up my Cintiq. Yeah, no, you have to have a tablet. There's just no doing it without it. Yeah, no, a small one works. You just have to, as you're working, you just move around. But it's more the pressure sensitivity that you're looking for. I mean, that's really the whole point. And ZBrush really is, I mean, like I said, you can do ZBrush with a mouse, but you're not you're not getting any of the benefits of being able to, I could come in here and fill in soft, and then I can lay on hard pattern, and you have to have a Wacom. Can you talk about areas of rest, detail, and how to balance them? Well, it really comes down to, well, okay, I don't know if I have anything that has an area of rest. I make some pretty chaotic crap. But, I mean, like here, this, and how to, this is what I would consider an area of rest. Let's actually create an area of rest. We're going to make this one it, right? And where you would use it is when you want something to stand out. You have to remember that the brighter, smoother texture is going to come out bright in your metal, right? So wherever you want lines, right, those are where you want the smoothness. Well, let's go back to that rendering, because this is even a dark rendering, so it gives you a better idea about it. I mean, like even right here in this scale, see these ridges are smooth, right? The texture is texture. So when this reflects in anodized titanium, these lines become very bright, right? You can even see here in this forced like little rendering, right? Oh crap, that's so you can see how that area right here, let's go to those are the three. There we go. Okay. So this is a pretty dark material, but you can see I've put a lot of texture and I've used a lot of bump texture back down in here, right? But these are smooth surfaces. So how I use rest and texture is to direct my eye, right? So I want these bright so your eye follows their form. We're using that brightness or that smoothness to provide surfaces that, oh, you know what? I'm a big old dummy. Right. Oh, come on. But you can see what I mean by this being a dark render surface. It's not great. There we go. But you can get in here and you can see how once again, we're using the ridging. It's dark. This shines bright. And I know it's a little dark in here. I don't have directional. That's the same part. I'd have to turn on light. Sorry, is that? Yeah. But, you know, these become bright flashes and your eye follows them. I know these are simplistic. Let me see if I can find one of these that has, I don't know if there's anything here that's super, you know what? Picture viewer, the new picture viewer is the worst. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they changed their picture viewer, but they blew it in my book. Really? Now it won't even. My God, Windows. You guys suck so bad. Look, I can't move something, but I can draw a blue dot on it, damn it. No, I'm just getting crabby. What do we have here? What is up with that? Okay, that's getting really old really quick. Okay, for some reason, Windows has decided not to do anything. Great. Okay, are we completely frozen? No, it's just everything. Okay, is this frozen? Sure enough. Maybe I shouldn't have 15 programs open at once. Okay, well, I guess, are we still streaming? Is that frozen? No. All right, well, I don't know what to tell you. My machine has decided that everything's not working except for video streaming. Are we lagging, or is it just... I think the world's just telling me I'm done. All right, where... Oh, okay. Well, stream seems fine. My machine, everything else is not working. Yeah. All right. I guess we're going to call it. Because I'm not going to reboot. That'll take forever. My throat's going anyway. Come to my stream and I can show you a little bit clearer. I think none of these were particularly good examples, but I think that you know, here, you know, leaving this fairly plain and leaving this stuff textured, these things are going to be bright. So especially in jewelry or anything that's going to wind up metallic, you have to remember that smoothness equals white, right? Equals white lines. And so, you know, we're sculpting in light. And even if you're doing like miniatures and things like that, you're going to, you know, you're probably going to dry brush this white. So the smoother the surface, the wider the line that it, not wide, whiter the line. And so that's sort of, and the more texture and bumpy, the darker the surface. So you just have to keep remembering that we're painting in light, right? So you make something textural, it gets dark, right? See here? And we've used keeping, and I would have come back and smoothed some of these out if I really want these to be a bright pattern, right? And so how your surfaces reflect light are completely dependent on angle, level, texture, you know, and then smoothness, finish, you know. And so, yeah, I'd be happy to show you something, but everything just kaput it. The universe decided that my stream is done. So, want to thank everyone for being here. Once again, if you haven't tried ZBrush or don't have ZBrush, where is... Come on. Wow, I can't even move my screens. Wow, crazy. Everything's frozen except for the stream. That's wild. Okay, so, wow, I wonder if I'll be able to turn my stream off. No. I'm going to actually just have to hard boot this. That's crazy that the stream's still going because literally nothing else is working. I'm going to have to just push my power button, to kill this sucker. All right, so I'm gonna have to push reboot to kill it. Everything's frozen. I'm going nowhere. Can't touch anything. Yeah, I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'll be streaming on my stream as well. I will try. It's been chaotic. I haven't been able to work out a regular schedule. I stream quite a bit. If you join me, you know, it'll tell you when I come on. If anyone has questions, I'm always open there to work through issues and help people there. And yeah, I would show you where the live ZBrush, if you look right below the window, there's a 40-day free trial for ZBrush if you don't have it. If you don't have it, goodness gracious, get it. I want to thank all my other streamers. Look, everyone there. We have an incredible group of streamers, and they keep adding more and more absolutely awesome people. God, Ashley has this down so well. I so suck at it. Everyone else is like, yeah, it's don't forget that. I always forget everything. All right, guys. Thanks a million. I appreciate you hanging out. And yeah, I will talk to you soon. Now I have to go over here and turn my computer off because everything's frozen.